Greetings. I am Kelly Jackson, a third year business administration student from West Bloomfield, Michigan. Upon graduating from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, I intend to accomplish the following three goals: 1. Intern at a major financial services company. 2. Attend business graduate school on the East Coast. And 3. I plan to work for a major Wall Street investment banking firm as a managing director. Based on the goals that I have just mentioned, I had the honor of speaking with Mr. Darnell D. Jackson, Senior Vice President and Wealth Management Advisor at Morgan Stanley. Greeting, Mr. Jackson.
Greetings. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. It's good to have you on this call.
Thank you. My goal during this conversation is to get a better understanding of your career path and how you were able to transition from college into your current position now at Morgan Stanley. My first question is, can you tell me about your educational background?
Sure. I'd love to tell you. I started as a undergraduate student at the University of Michigan upon graduating from high school. After graduating from the University of Michigan, I worked as a banker where I got licensed as a Series 63, Series 66, Series 7 registered representative for investment firms on Wall Street. I happen to have a variable contract life insurance, accident, and health insurance license, as well as a graduation from Wharton Business School, Advanced Training and Financial Services. Those are the formalized educational background for me. I also attended graduate school at the University of Detroit.
Oh, interesting. You are from the same state that I am from. That's wonderful. My second question is, during your college experience, were you a part of any personal organizations or professional organizations or groups that prepared you for the workforce?
Yes, I was very active in college. After 30 days of being at the University of Michigan, I ran campus-wide 25,000 students for the Student Government Council and was successfully elected. I also was elected that same month to the Student Housing Council at my dormitory. I pledged the Omega Psi Phi fraternity during that freshman year. By third year, I became a peer counselor in the Coalition for the Use of Learning School, which was a peer counseling program for Black and diverse students. And I worked in the Business School Students Association during my stay at the university as well. Okay. Each of those organizations prepared me very well for what I do today.
Thank you. I will apply that to some of my endeavors in life as well, learning from what you have just told me. What made you choose this career?
I think the career chose me. I actually intended to start my college career as a journalism student. And quite frankly, my brother called and said, you may not be as successful as you want to be as a journalism student. Why don't you consider going to the business school and you can write about being in business and about business matters as well, and you can double your major. So I followed his instruction. It changed my life. Instead of majoring in journalism, I switched my major to economics. It explained my life, it explained my city, it explained my history, and it changed how I viewed the world. And so I ended up with a degree and major in economics with a minor in journalism.
What advice would you have if someone wanted to change their major as is what you did?
I think it's more important to follow your heart because I've often said to people, what I do today, I would do for free. I wouldn't even necessarily need to be compensated for the work that I do and the things that I've accomplished in my profession and career. I'm so passionate about it. I never go to work. I actually go to fun. And I believe that anybody deciding on a career has to determine what would they do for free if they could do it. And that should be more how one is influenced about their career than how much they're going to get paid or how many hours they work or whether or not somebody else is doing it and whether or not it's popular. I think it's more important to follow one's passion, to follow one's gut in their stomach.
Interesting. What, if any, were some of the challenges that you faced while seeking a job or internship during or after your college?
Once I graduated from college, I had applied to 25 different law school programs, really 10 that I really wanted to go to. I'd never been rejected from any admissions program in my life, and for some reason, I didn't know it at the time, I was turned down for every single application to every law school that I applied to. That was not my plan. And as a result, I ended up graduating from undergrad and then going straight to work. I first worked 30 days at a factory, General Motors Corporation, in one of their truck manufacturing plants. And that was to tie me over. And once I realized I was not going to grad school, I ended up seeking my permanent position in banking. I went to work as a branch management trainee, and I ended up staying in that career for 5 years. I later discovered that one of my grades was not turned in at my university, and that is the reason why I was not admitted to the law schools. So the lesson here is to have every student make sure that they know all of what's being done before they graduate, in spite of having a cap and gown.
Great advice. Thank you. What valuable lessons can you share with someone trying to make a career in this field?
In banking, the name of the game is you've got to be able to digest an enormous amount of information. My position in banking, identifying clients' needs and then satisfying those needs with financial services and products that meet those needs of the client. And that includes individuals as well as corporations, nonprofit organizations, municipalities, and government. And every institution has a specific goal that they're trying to accomplish, whether it is underwriting municipal bonds or raising capital for corporations for expansion, or an individual looking to map out their goals for retirement. Everybody has a goal. And what I've learned is it's very important to be able to question, identify, drill down to the most basic level what the goals are of the client. And if you can satisfy what those goals are, you can be very, very successful at accomplishing what the client is looking to accomplish.
Okay. Great advice. What, if any, are some current challenges that graduates right now are facing in regards to banking and finance and other things in corporate America?
The biggest challenge right now is jobs. The second biggest thing is jobs. The third biggest thing for young people is getting a job. As you may know, many of these financial services firms became very bloated and had more employees than what they needed in the late 2008, 9, 10. The industry went through tremendous turmoil. It's right now going through a lot of changes through laws being implemented so as to prevent the kind of excesses that occurred during the 80s when financial services firms were going through a major challenge. At this point, these firms are now starting to right-size and to hire students. And for the last 5 years, many students were not hired directly into the financial services business. Lack of growth industry.
Many might say that young individuals aren't getting jobs because of the recession that happened a couple of years ago. Do you think that is the main reason why it is such a challenge for young graduates?
I think the recession was a big part of it, but I think a very competitive student who's marketed themselves in the right way can get a position in spite of what the recession was doing. It requires that you package oneself, tie into networks, and identify repeatedly over and over again firms that are looking for unique and competitive students. People still got hired in spite of all the challenges. Maybe not so much in 2008 as 2010, but people still got hired. And whoever was sharpest and had the right package and had a compelling reason why they should have been hired, those students still got hired. So I believe the recession would have been a big part of it. I think politics in Washington would have been a big part of it. I think innovation and the slowdown in innovation during these periods would have been a part of why there was a slowdown. But I believe many of those things have been dealt with, and now we're starting to see the first signs of growth in the industry.
That's great, because it's just very interesting to hear a lot of young graduates come out and not have a job, and the market is so scarce, and everybody's trying to get that one thing, but you have to be that top student is what I'm gathering. And also, do you think that networking has a impact on if you will get that job rather than somebody else next to you who was a little bit more reserved?
I think networking is the number one way that people got jobs during the biggest challenges of the recession. The only people who got positions were people who knew somebody who referred them into a firm, and those were a lot of the situations that I personally identified with in terms of people being able to get a position. I know personally the people that I hired were recommended to me. They came highly recommended, and the people who acted as their sponsor basically took personal responsibility for outcome. The interviews before hiring these people during this period were expensive, and people had to be extremely gifted and sharp in order to successfully gain positions during bad and challenging economic times. So people were still hired. But I will tell you, one of the greatest ways that they got in was through being referred in and using networks.
That's huge. That is very huge for you to be able to network with many people, because to me, and able to become a financial advisor, you have to be able to get clients in order for you to even have your business to start running. Is that correct?
That's correct, but you also have to be a manager too. It requires having a plan. Every good result most often comes from a well-executed plan and a vision of where you want to go, and then working that plan so that the execution is exactly what you want it to be. So it's one thing to go out and convince people to do what they wouldn't otherwise do, but it's another whole thing to have a plan and strategy for how we go about doing it. Ultimately, the biggest and best competitors are people who win because they have persistence, they have tenacity, and they've been prepared through workshops, through training, through advanced training, and through working through association and being a good person to work for. Having a positive mental attitude is the single most important thing that I find good students have who come into the business and manage to succeed in the business. Doing it over and beyond the call of duty and planning to do so helps as well. So I really want to emphasize any student that's looking to advance and grow in the workforce today, they should have a clear background of success, things that they've accomplished during their college career and after. Be associated with organization. Show that you can be a leader. Show that you can take charge. Show that you can plan. Be a good writer. If you do all these things, I think you can be successful no matter what economic environment. So I thank you so very much for sharing this time with me.
I definitely agree with you with the whole planning your life out, because a wise man once told me that you can't have just one plan. You need multiple plans. You need A, B, and C, and 1, 2, and 3. You just can't have that one plan. I have 2 more questions to ask you, sir. Is that okay?
Sure. What's your next question?
My next question, on a lighter note, is what are the current trends in finance and banking industry?
Right now, the current trends are centered around a couple areas. One, the same thing that caused the financial markets to collapse in 2008 are the same things that are creating the greatest growth and opportunity right now, real estate. Last year, in 2012, real estate was the #1 engine for economic growth and expansion in the United States. Close behind was healthcare, and right behind that was manufacturing. Those 3 areas devastated during the economic collapse, not so much healthcare, but manufacturing and real estate are now the leaders in creating job opportunities. It's a major trend that's going on. Lower interest rates is another major trend. Lower interest rates are expected to continue for the next couple of years, and what that means is it's a great time to finance a great idea. Innovation, I believe, is another major trend. Technology and the use of technology to increase one's productivity at a corporation or for the individual. It's a major area that separates a all-right candidate and or company to a company that excels and to an individual that excels. Anybody who can use technology to increase one's productivity is, I find, able to be significantly more successful. So I believe the new economic growth around the world will come from those who use innovation, advancement, technology to increase productivity. Lastly, internationalization. World economies that were small many years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, have become big. China, India, Brazil, they are places where significant growth and expansion are occurring. Resources in Africa, resources in South America will determine how supply and demand is shifted from old world major industrialized countries to emerging countries that actually grow at a faster pace. Today, Brazil is bigger than France, and for the last centuries, France was significantly bigger than Brazil. And I expect that kind of shifting between the old and the new to continue for many years to come. Those are some of the major trends that I see. And if I were a student today, I would know how to speak Spanish, and I've learned how to speak Mandarin and Cantonese.
Interesting advice. So you recommend learning different languages, and being diverse. One last question, Mr. Jackson. What has been your greatest accomplishment in your career, and how long have you been working as a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley, or just as a whole in your career?
I've worked at Morgan Stanley for the last 4 years, but I worked for Merrill Lynch for 25 years. I worked as a banker for 5 years before that. I'm now in my 35th year of working in financial services. My greatest accomplishment in business and industry is working to raise $9.5 billion in public and corporate finance transactions in Southeast Michigan. Those transactions include expansion and complete renovation of the Detroit Metropolitan Airport. Close to half of that financing was done by myself and my team, and the firm that I work for, and corporate financing. Many of the buildings and many of the corporations that I walk around and look at in downtown Detroit, I can see and witness bridges, roads, companies that used in our advice and consultation to raise capital for expansion of their companies. I also have been uniquely responsible for the pension plans and the investment plans of major companies, institutions, and schools in the metropolitan area. But for the investment advice and consultation, much of the long-term success for people retiring could not have been possible in these kind of very volatile markets had we not been on the right side of history in how we manage financial affairs. For that, I am extremely humbled and very excited that through that transition, we've been able to be successful for many people, and many of those people, the children, will be able to reap the benefit of the long-term success of financial strategies that we employ.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jackson. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. And I will definitely take all the advice that you have given to me within this conversation. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so very much, and I enjoyed working with you on this interview. My continued wishes for great success for your fine institution, Florida A&M, and I wish you continued success in your career as well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.